Hi, guys. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. Today, we are going to talk about being happier in the holidays instead of happy holidays. And we know that as the holidays approach, many of us find this to be one of the most challenging times when it comes to staying on track with recovery and ultra processed foods. And between festive gatherings, emotional family dynamics, and the endless cues and triggers, this season can feel like walking through a minefield. But here's the good news. You don't have to lose your footing. Today, we're going to discuss strategies to navigate food, relationships, and triggers during the holidays so you can stay clean, sober, and connected to your recovery. So, Jamie and I have come up with some points that we think will be very helpful to you as you learn from our experience. And I'm going to start out by asking Jamie a question. And the first one is, what's been the biggest challenge for you personally when it comes to staying committed to being clean and to clean eating during the holidays, and how do you manage that? I want to hear what you have to say, and then I'll share maybe some of my ideas too.
Um, I would say the biggest thing that I just remember is, and I learned this years ago from my very first dietitian that I worked with. Again, I have my own opinions about dietitians in general, but the advice that I got from the one I worked with around life events like this was very helpful. So she talked a lot about how the holidays are really, especially the holiday season, is really only 2, maybe 3 days. It's not a full month. So she would say there's, if you give yourself, and her mindset was give yourself permission to enjoy those 3 days after after you set yourself up for success with your macro and micronutrients and all of the ways that you sort of feed yourself to provide the satiety that you need. So she
Yeah.
said after, so that included eating at regular meal times, no matter when the
Hmm.
meals were happening. And that included eating the normal amount of food and the right mix of foods for my needs on those days. And then she said, insert a part of, great Aunt Hilda's whatever dessert, or a bite of, or, a serving of an appetizer that, Uncle John makes, three times a decade, whatever that is. Like she said, just, have room. She said, but that is after everything else. And she said, you never go to a holiday gathering hungry ever, because you should be eating at your meal times. And remember that if you keep in mind that the holidays are actually only Thanksgiving and maybe one day in December, and then one day in January. The holidays should be easy. Now, if you're navigating, other holidays outside of Christian holidays, right? You've got to be mindful. Same rules apply there, right? If it's 5 days or 6 days of Hanukkah, it is there are 6 days, and the same rules apply to each of those days,
Hmm.
right? So it's important to keep in mind how you're treating those days. They're not free for all days, but they are days that you can try to fit in some of those things. If there's something that you're only going to get that time of year, you would, you've set yourself up for success in every other way, and that you eat it, whatever those things are, mindfully, be as present as you can with the food,
Yeah.
and the company, and
Yeah.
remember what you're there to celebrate. You're there to celebrate either, some spiritual, of course, practices and traditions, spiritual beliefs, celebrate time with family and friends, and to make memories. It's not about the food.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with everything you said. And sometimes I fear that I don't even take time to look up from my plate, that once the food starts, I'm just in it. And so I agree with you. And a couple of things, what you said about the three holidays, those are meals. That's not like
Right.
even
Not a
the
whole
full
day.
24 hours.
No.
So, and then you can be choosy about parties or whatever. But one thing for me is when I see it and it's everywhere, I just literally keep moving. I try to just keep moving, and I have a firm boundary around the sugar for me. And I have found that when I stick to that firm boundary, it actually reduces the chatter and negotiations. If you just say, no, that's it. And if you're will I, won't I, those cravings are going to feel so much stronger and so much worse. So, yeah, those are the couple of things that I wanted to add in. And well, you brought up the tradition foods. That gets hard too, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Well, again, it depends where you are in recovery, right? So there was a period in my recovery where I did not imbibe any of those, and there are periods in recovery where I did, right? And I do. So I think it's different for where people are in their own recovery.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So second question, can you share a memorable holiday moment where you successfully navigated food triggers? What made it work? So Paige, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm going to start out with how I was unsuccessful. So, um, my husband had a friend that sent us homemade toffee, and he does that for friends every year. And I'm like, I am not going to eat any of that. And so I started in, even after, and I mean, I made myself sick every day. And each day I would say, I'm so sick, I am not eating any more of that. And I think I ate through the whole tin of that. And then also on Christmas morning, my husband makes fresh, warm cinnamon rolls with this. Again, it's the tradition. He drives to three families while they're warm and passes them out to families on Christmas morning. That's been special to us during the year. And then all the kids, everybody looks forward to it. So, over the past 3 years since I've been sugar free, I've not even started on that. And before, when I was in it, the rest of the day would just be focused on getting more and more and more till it's gone. And I mean, I really couldn't think about anything else other than getting that. And I have to tell you, it's just so much easier to do the hard boundary and not for me. I'm not in a place where I can have part of that tradition because one bite for me is the rest of my day is gone.
Mhm.
But so I guess know thy triggers is maybe what I would say
Love
and what I
thyself.
can handle. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
so a success for me has just been drawing that hard boundary
Mhm.
and knowing that if I want to be with my family, I just can't get started on those traditional things and trying to stick as close as I can to my normal pattern of eating.
Yeah, knowing yourself makes a huge difference. And also again, I don't have strict hard rules around specific foods because those rules make me crave the foods. What I do
Mhm.
have strict rules about is making sure that I do my self-care and stack all of my required, self-care and nutritious meals in first. So that if I do get to a point where, there's those foods, I'm not ever starting my day with them, right? Which would be hard. That would set me up for failure if I was starting my day with something like that. There's no
Mhm.
doubt. If I was starting my day with a cinnamon roll, the day's shot,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
It just would be shot with craving. So for me, I would say, okay, if I'm going to be around that, I would make sure that I had all of my first meal ready to roll. I had eaten all of that, whatever my morning routine is for that day, and holiday morning routines change for me than my regular routines, um, depending on where I am. And then I say, okay, after I've done my routine, had my meal, I check in with myself. Do I still want that? And I remind myself that if the answer is no, that if I do later, it will be available to me. No
Yeah.
one's no one's coming and taking it away. And it's not something that I have to, like, it's always going to be available to me in some way, shape, or form. It will be available, right? Whether it's on this day from this person or another day from another person. So I have
Oh,
to
that's true.
that because when I tell myself that something is off limits, that sets me up to crave it. And it sets
Mhm.
me up to seek it and to be totally consumed with consuming it. So that's why for me, it helps to have nothing off limits. And the only boundary that I set for myself is to make sure that I do my self-care, and that includes my food and my nutrient dense meals first and foremost at the normal times so that I can really decide to check in with myself and listen and say, am I truly hungry? Uh, or I am going to have a part of that or a bite of that, and I'm going to be present with it, and I'm going to sit and I'm going to acknowledge it. And 90% of the time when I do that, the first thought I have is, this is too rich, this is too sweet, this doesn't taste as good as I remembered. This and
Sorry, Uncle Fred.
yeah, the romance is gone, right? The romance is gone. That really helps me. And other times it's, this is good. I'm glad I enjoyed it. It's a nice memory that I'm making because, food is a sensory experience. It's a memory that I'm making. It's part of the process. And then I kind of move on without going, oh my God, I hope I can have that again. And oh my gosh, I have it again. Because again, when I set myself up for success with self-care, those highly triggering foods lose their power over me.
Yeah, I never thought, I love your point about if self-care is first, it may change your desire to
Every time,
even,
every
because,
time.
yeah,
For me,
that's beautiful.
every time. And again, when I went with more nutrient dense foods, right? When I was eating foods that didn't have nutrient density, right? If I was in processed food, there's no way I'd be able to suss that out.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
when we have those macro and micronutrient needs met in the quantities that our body needs, rarely are we truly hungry, and we simply don't have room to overeat on those foods, the indulgent foods, trigger foods, even if we wanted to. We just don't have
Yeah.
the room.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that we have the opportunity to discuss two different approaches to, you're saying you do no restriction, and I say with sugar, I have to have it because that actually makes me feel comfortable and safe. But it's like
Yeah,
what we said, it's where you are. And
right.
on a holiday, I may have that strong restriction around sugar, but maybe not with anything else because I'm like, hey man, if I can get through a holiday without doing the sugar, I'm not worried about anything else. This is Herculean for me to do this. I just don't need to worry about anything else. So that's where I am in my journey. And some people may disagree with that, but I love talking about the different points of view. So,
I
okay.
agree.
One thing that comes up a lot, and I'm interested in what Jamie's answer is on this, but how do you personally handle those moments when you feel tempted to indulge in these ultra processed foods at a holiday gathering when you're trying not to, and you know you're already wobbly and you know you're not in a strong, safe place? That I think I told you before at Thanksgiving, I literally found my hand. It's like that hand was out of my body, and I took my other hand and pulled it back because I knew it was coming from a place of deep desire and craving on this cookie that my daughter had made. So what do you do when you're in that moment and
I
the cravings are
remember,
just so hard?
I remember my self-care, right? I try my hardest not to put myself in those situations. So, like for instance, we have an opportunity this year to go, and we're doing some volunteer work on Christmas morning for the homeless.
Oh, oh, that's great.
Going and we're doing that. There's not loose food around, right? There's no loose food. It's all pre-packaged, highly processed foods, unfortunately. And then clothing, right? And we get together and we organize all these bags that get taken up to the homeless shelters in Houston. So we're going to go do that first thing, and I know that that's going to be very early, like from 7 to 9 a.m.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're going and doing that. That's before my eating time. I'm not even going to be tempted. I'm going to just bring my bone broth or whatever I have in the morning, and I'm going and doing that. And then I know at home, I already thought about it. At home, I'll have the ingredients I need for my first meal. I'm going to eat my first meal normally. And then we planned, right, there's 2 other events that day. We're going to be cooking for one and helping to contribute to another. And I've already sort of timed out what I will eat and what I'm making for those meals so that I can prioritize my self-care, which is my nutrient dense food first.
Hmm.
And I'm also not focusing on any of the other processed stuff. I'm just not putting it front and center for me to deal with.
Yeah,
What I'm focusing on is my self-care and my own food.
mhm. I love that. I love starting your day on Christmas with the service project. That's phenomenal.
an early
I
one. It gets me out of.
yeah, which is why that's one of our branches, right? So for me, one of the things that I learned from Jamie is change location, change location, change location. When I'm in that, I am starting to feel, I almost can feel it like welling up in me when those cravings are coming on, that it's scary, scary spice.
Yeah.
And so going to help start doing the dishes always helps me go to the bathroom, get away from the table, get away from everyone that's just sitting and eating. After the meal's done, people still kind of sit and eat and pick. And I have to get away from that. Going outside at Thanksgiving, I brought crafts for the grandkids to do. And we spent maybe 2 or 3 hours working on a couple of different craft projects that I brought. So I make sure to schedule something during that lull downtime after the meal. If deep breathing is your thing, that works. And self-talk. I'm really practicing on honing those skills of self-talk. Like, you're okay. You've had enough. It's going to be okay. That really does shift that blood flow to the frontal lobe for me. And that's something else that I do. So yeah, I think those are all of the main thing. And get it out of my house. I send it with other
Oh,
people,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
or I don't take it home. I leave it. That those are other big tips that I have.
Yeah, we're getting together with friends this weekend and at a big potluck. And that's the strategy. Just send it, get it out, well, we're bringing something that's really a food that I would have in the house normally. So it's not a big deal to give it away or get it out or not come home with it. But for all the other foods, like I'm not going to be having it in the house after the
Right.
party it's done.
Mm-mm.
Um, and that's a very good strategy.
Huge.
And again, just structuring your day around you and your needs is the best advice we can give. Your needs, prioritizing those exact same foods and meal times that you normally have, and then fit the holiday stuff in around your needs,
Yeah.
and you will find that your whole day is much easier.
Right. I know. I keep my day scheduled pretty tightly, especially after you get home. If you've been at someone's house, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I literally have a plan in place when I get home, what that is going to look like. I visualize it, and it
Yep.
just calms me down.
Totally, which is nice to like unplug from the hustle, especially if there's little ones. Unplugging from
Ooh,
the hustle and bustle of that is very nice.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, so what's some practical strategies you use to prepare for the holiday events where ultra processed foods are abundant? Again, it goes back to what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Prepare, prepare, prepare. Stick
I
to
it
your schedule, stick to your guns, and just stick to your plan and follow it, and you will find that you don't have the room for other things.
Yeah, I try. So if it's like a holiday party, something like that, that you've had extra invitations to that aren't, those main family days, I
Mhm.
try to eat before I go. And I already tell myself, okay, you've eaten, you can hold a seltzer water in your hand. Don't go near the food table. And I don't plan on staying for a long time. You don't have to stay till the last dog is dead. You can
Right.
stay 20, 30 minutes, an hour at the tops. Make sure that you're speaking to the most important people, and
Yep.
then leave,
Yeah.
leave. There's no rules that you have to stay an exorbitant amount of time. And when you've had enough and things are starting to feel shaky. So planning that out, visualizing what it's going to look like, already making a hard decision before you go in. Just don't even get started.
Well, visualize what you're going to do, right?
Yeah,
Not you don't know what it's going to look like necessarily, right? That can
yeah,
create expectations, but
yeah,
just visualize your own action.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You visualize, this is what I'm going to do. This is what it's going to look like. It's almost like you're pre-dialing in what the party's going to look like, who you're going to talk to, get a drink, have the drink in your hand, make sure you talk to important people, and then
I love it. Yep, prioritize, and it all goes back, guys, to prioritizing the right things, right? Prioritize the right things, the people, the memories, right?
and, and
The people you haven't seen in a while, conversations you want to have, prioritize that, and the rest of it will fall into the right place.
It really is what you said when we very first started talking about self-care. That's what self-care looks like, is connecting to others and filling your soul, not not filling your gut. So, yeah. Let's talk about this. How do you approach family or friends who may not understand or support your clean eating goals during the holiday?
This was something that came up for me last year. I was back in New Jersey with family for the holidays, and I had a family member ask me how I navigated those holiday meals, and I said I,
Hmm.
or any family meals, and I said I
Hmm.
bring my food. I said, and I always have it in a cooler, and usually I keep it in the car until I need it, right? If it's at my mealtime, right? If it's
Hmm.
outside of my mealtime, I just eat, and then I just don't eat when I'm at the meal or the gathering.
Hmm.
But if it's during my own mealtime, I will always bring my own food. And
Hmm.
I have it as, my backup plan. And if the family or gathering, if the meal at that gathering is not aligned with my recovery goals, I just excuse myself, go get my cooler and heat up my food, and that's it. And I had a family member make fun of me after I shared. And this was like, an older family member that unfortunately I think should have thought through this comment. He's like, "Oh, you have your backup plan? You have your backup food, Jamie? You got your backup to your backup." Like, he was just making fun of me and laughing about it. And unfortunately, I'm used to this kind of behavior from certain members of the family. So I just kind of let it roll and reminded myself of the source, and that they weren't they were always judgmental of things that I needed to do for myself. And that was just another example of it. So I just let it roll, and you have to just, kind of act like Teflon, right? Just let
Hmm.
things, slide off of you.
Yeah.
That's the best advice. You take care of you, and if they have negative comments, let them slide off of you as best you can, and do not give your power away and eat over
Yeah.
whatever other people say to you.
Right.
Whatever they say to you is based on their own stuff. It's not nothing to do with you.
I agree. I agree. I taught my youngest daughter this. She had a boy in high school who would tease her relentlessly and make fun of her. And we figured out if she just would say, like, if he said, "Didn't you comb your hair today?" She'd just go, "I know, right?" And just keep agreeing and go, "Right? Yeah, I've got a backup plan to my backup plan. Isn't that a great idea?" So yeah, I mean, I still have people that don't get that I'm sugar free and will still offer it to me. And yeah, I want it when they say, "Don't you want some pie?" Well, sure, I want it, but I'm not going to. But if people just press me, I always just say, "Oh yeah, I'm working on some health goals," and I just keep it light and keep moving on, because my most important priority is just to keeping myself safe, and that's the last thing I want to do on a holiday. Because you know what? That's all I would remember about that holiday, honestly. If I got into the food, I wouldn't remember one thing about anybody there. I would just leave depressed and gloomy, and that's how I would remember. All my memories on that holiday would be around that.
I agree.
Okay. What have we got next there?
What role does your self-talk or mindfulness play in staying on track with your eating habits during stressful holiday moments? So, Paige, what are your thoughts on this one?
I talked about that a little bit already, and that is really like my number one skill I'm working on right now, and it really does work. It's especially if that tone is from that loving, protective parent to that scared, upset child. I mean, it is just lovely to have, just even if it's you talking to yourself in that reassuring, safe way. So that really is, I I I can't even, I don't have the words for saying how powerful I think that is, that skill is.
I totally 100% agree. And again, I don't even look at it as staying on track with eating. I don't think of it as anything to do with food. I just think of it as staying connected to myself, staying connected to
Yeah.
the present moment, staying connected to the conversations that I'm having, or the people that I'm talking with, or even, like this morning in my workout, I was staying present with moving my body in a certain way, and when I was lifting my weights and making sure that I was really, staying present with stretching in between each movement, and I was just enjoying every moment.
Mhm.
It wasn't like when is this going to be over? It was like, okay, let me just enjoy every moment. And
Yeah.
it really is a true game changer. I believe that spiritually, anyway, my own spiritual beliefs, I think that that's what God wanted for us when he created our experience, right? And created us. He wanted us to relish those present moments, because that really is where we're receiving all that he wants to give us.
Yeah. I agree. So, by the way, you were talking about taking a dish to a potluck. Do you have like a favorite holiday recipe that you bring to gatherings?
I used to, when I was plant-based, I used to have them all, and I'd have ones that people would request of me, and I would try to sync up with and make them for people. Now I don't really, I mean, I could bring, steaks or whatever. It'd be very expensive for me to do that. So I don't. But I found, like, I'm actually trying out for this potluck this week. I'm trying out a new recipe, some kind of chili recipe, or some kind of sloppy Joe, or something that you can bring that travels in a pot well.
True. Hmm.
Yep. And I'm I'll serve it in a way that doesn't have any kind of processed stuff with it. But people can, if they have processed things there that they want to add to it, they can. But I'm not going to be serving it with it.
Yeah.
So that's how I whatever I bring, I make sure satisfies my own needs. It might be selfish, but that's kept me safe for 16 years. So I'm not going to.
Oh, yeah. That's rule number one. Absolutely, I agree.
It keeps me focused, keeps me full, keeps me online with my goals, and I know it will fill me in a way that I won't want to deviate from my goals. So it's just, that's how I prioritize that. That's the kind of meal that I'll bring with me, the dish that I bring with me.
Yeah. And I just have a homemade hummus that I do that people love. So that's kind of my
Mhm.
go-to with vegetables. So
Yep.
nothing fancy, simple, and it always works. So I stick with it.
How do you deal with emotional triggers like family conflicts or loneliness that might lead to cravings?
Ooh, that one is so hard, especially because the holidays can sometimes put a spotlight on relationships that are in a bad place. But what I really try to do to overcome that is focus on the people that I love and that love me and want to be in my life. Everybody else I just try to stay polite with. And other than reducing my exposure, I don't have a bunch of answers other than just staying in a place of gratitude for what I have. And I know that eating ultra processed food will not make my relationships better with anybody, and it won't make me feel better. I heard the food shrinks the other day talking about food is not a skill. So that's not a tool in your toolbox. And just focusing on acts of service always pulls me out of that poor me
Hmm.
spot for relationships that I'm sad about. So just doing things for other people. So really just going the extra mile to cherish the relationships that I have and show the people that I do have in my life that I love them.
Tell me more about I don't know who the food shrinks are, and this food is not a skill. Tell our
Oh,
listeners.
yeah. Thank you. Clarissa Kennedy and Molly, I'm going to say Molly's last name wrong. Panskrat.
Okay.
And there's another Molly. They just started on YouTube.
Nice.
Food shrinks. Yeah, they're great. Listen to those girls. They're great.
Excellent. And what is their thought around food is not a skill?
Yeah, so in other words, that's not in the toolbox of the things that we use. So when you're upset or sad or lonely, food is not a skill. Talking to yourself is a skill, deep breathing is a skill,
Right.
affirmations is a skill, those types of things.
Control,
But
that's right. Controlling of food, AKA, or using food, is not a skill.
yes, yeah, using food to numb is not a skill. Using food for comfort is not a skill.
So that's really important to think about too, right? When we think about what Paige and I mentioned, it's along the same lines. if you focus on the food, what we focus on grows. So if you focus on the food grows. If you focus on all the other things that you're doing outside of the food,
Yeah.
that's what grows. That's focus on the memories,
Mhm.
focus on the connection, focus on the gifts, focus on seeing and having conversations with loved ones, focus on the decorations, focus on
Yeah.
games. That's what you focus on. And when you
Yeah.
focus on those things, the food doesn't even register.
It's small. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was at my daughter's house, my older daughter's house this past weekend, and man, she just decorated every inch of that house, and I was just mesmerized and really caught up in all the different little vignettes here and there. I mean, I didn't do that at my house this year, but I really do appreciate it when other people do it. I think it's very beautiful.
Mhm. Yep, I agree.
Okay, how do you manage the abundance of the food related cues during the holidays that are traditions tied to ultra processed food? We kind of have talked about this, the traditions, those can be hard for people, but what I did is I just changed my traditions and I stopped making those traditional dishes. And really, I haven't had too much pushback from that, but my traditions are now, I've started new traditions, healthier traditions, traditions that I hope my family remembers me for.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I focus on the traditions that are not food related.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, my husband and father-in-law are the ones, the three of us kind of coordinate the things for my husband's family because it's the, the kids and us, and the kids don't really, they're there to see us, get their gifts, right? Enjoy some laughs, and then they're going to their friends' houses or doing
Yeah.
whatever they're doing. At their age, that's what I did too.
Hmm.
So we kind the food for us with our little nuclear family is sort of a last minute thought. But for me, the decorations, the gifts, the time, the gatherings, the even the shopping events, like those are more that's what I focus on. Like my husband and I have a annual thing that we do every year to go get stocking stuffers for the kids, and we have a fun time going to the dollar store and playing with all the little things and trying to figure out what to fill their stockings with. How much we can get for our, $15 or whatever it is that we spend for the
Hmm.
stockings stuffers. And we have a good time doing that. And then I have a great time shopping for gifts for others. Like that's a lot of fun for me to do, even though gifts is not my love language, but I seriously enjoy it around the holidays. And doing a white elephant with our friends. We're doing a white elephant gift exchange. So
Oh,
that's always,
fun.
like little things like that I'd rather focus on than, and honestly, the food is just like, oh yeah, and I'm bringing this. Like, oh yeah, and I'm bringing
Hmm.
it. And it's just so much better. It really
Yeah.
is.
No, yeah, the joy lasts a lot longer. We're starting to do adult games on Christmas Eve where the kids will make cookies for Santa, and then I am starting traditions where I have games for the kids and games for the adults, and doing, like you said, the white elephant type of gifts for them to choose from, silly stuff. So I
Exactly.
agree. Change traditions.
Yep. Uh, what's the role of community or accountability in staying on track during the holidays? Do you lean on others for support?
I love this question because I think RFR does a great job. We have a WhatsApp where our community stays connected really 24/7, 365. And it's a great lifeline if somebody is like, okay, I'm feeling a little wobbly, or even if you're having success. So, or people share pictures of, their family, or we had one member who on Thanksgiving, their family went and did a run for a turkey trot. And she sent those pictures and even called in on Zoom to let everybody know. And that just filled my heart. So we have a great support system at RFR, and I really cherish those interactions with those other ladies.
Mhm. I agree. What is next?
Have you ever created or joined a holiday tradition centered around clean eating? What did that look like for you? I don't have much to add because I don't have anybody else supporting me, but have you ever done that?
No, again, because I just took my focus off the food. So I focused on other things like service or my husband and I have done the homeless stuff. We've done, uh, giving gifts and done things for adoption shelters for children. And we've done things, with other family members for my, for my niece when she was little, we did something that was really fun. I went and volunteered with her at a women and children's shelter and read stories and brought donated gifts to the kids and I try to do those kinds of things. But yeah, again, I really try not to make it about the food. When my mom's side in years past would get together and do the Christmas cookie thing. If I was there in town, which, it's been many years since I was there in town with them, I would just make sure that I did something, went out for a lunch or a meal that was clean
Yeah.
with members of the family, and then went later to the cookie thing
Oh,
and focused on doing the latter part of it. Like I would decorate the boxes or the bags with bows or with, different ornaments or cutouts or, things like that that you could decorate.
mm-hmm.
I didn't decorate the cookies. I didn't touch any of the stuff that I might want to lick my fingers over, right?
Right. I know it's so hard.
I just focused on, okay, I'm just going to be at the back end of the process and get them ready to be, gifted.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't say anything to anyone. I just put myself where I knew enjoy my time.
Mhm. You want to skip down to 14? I think that's probably
Sure.
those last ones I think are probably
Yeah.
more important.
What's one piece of encouragement you'd offer to someone who feels like they failed at maintaining clean habits during the holidays? What are your thoughts here?
I really, so that we understand that recovery is a journey and it's hard for people to be perfect 100% of the time. So you talked a little bit about this earlier about giving yourself grace, but I like to focus more on what have I learned and come up with some strategies to handle maybe the next big event that I would do a little bit better. And then it makes me change my mind shift to I look forward to excitement for practicing my new skills that I've just thought about, and it kind of pulls me out of that blueness or glumness if I'm trying to be hard on myself if I've done something wrong, but there's just nothing to be gained by wallowing in it. So move on is my piece of advice. And I don't know if you've ever really failed, especially if you've learned. I don't really think there's ever failure in that. What are
Yeah,
your
no,
thoughts?
essentially, if you're learning something or you learn that you don't want to do that again, and that's still a win. Um, there's been plenty of times, my first few years of recovery, for sure, where I was back where you are and I had these hard lines around things. And I remember those days and I remember beating myself up on the holidays before I found those hard lines that worked for me for a while, until they didn't, right? Until I realized that I could take the training wheels off and I was okay. And that comes with self-trust. So, but in the meantime, if I did fail, quote unquote, I would look at it as there's no failure, there's only feedback. But this was after many years of beating myself up and feeling guilty or self-condemning or, all the things. And it just, none of that brought me any closer to my recovery goals. All it did was just make me more stressed out along the way.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I really, more than anything today, I appreciate the conversation of you bringing up where you are now 15 years in and where I am now 3.5 years in, where I just find a little bit of protection, comfort protection, however you'd want to call it. And that's okay. It's all okay.
That's
It's
right.
there's no wrong in any of it.
You are where you
Um,
are. Anyone listening, you are where you are. Know yourself, know what you know your hard and fast rules that you need to live by right now.
and that's we've talked about this before about recovery. It's just a series of edits. We're going to do this until we need to edit, and then we'll do that until we need to edit, and then we'll do that until we need to edit. And they talk about the journey is the destination. It will be for me a never-ending journey, and I'm grateful for that. I don't want to be at the end. I do want to continue to work on things. So we've kind of talked about this last one, but I think it's a nice way to end things. What's your favorite non-food related way to celebrate the holidays and stay aligned with your recovery goals? Is there anything you want to talk about that you really haven't mentioned yet?
Yes. my family grew, I just was sharing this last night at our meeting with our couple of friends. We do a couples meeting every week. And uh my family growing up, we had Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, all the things.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a lot. It was a lot, but I got used to
Mhm.
that. I got used to you're this side of the family on this day, that side of the family on this day, or on one day you'd go to both sides of the family, whatever it was. I was used to the pace, I was used to the people, I was used to the gatherings, I was used to coordinating and organizing and watching as I grew up, my role would change in those gatherings, right? I went from to attending to contributing to running them to organizing all of the,
Yeah.
ways. And then now we don't have, right? Our family unit is very small here compared to what I grew up with and what I have.
Hmm.
So um I realized that I really missed that. I missed having the big gatherings. So I'm like, you know what?
Hmm.
We've got a group of 20 friends. So we just created a gathering so that I could get my itch scratched. And my husband's like, what? We're doing what with 20 people? I'm like, we're having a big holiday gathering before Christmas Day. We're doing a big one and with everyone and everyone's contributing something. It's not going to fall on just one person's shoulders. And
Hmm.
we're doing it sort of middle of the afternoon. We're focusing on games, we're focusing on the white
Yeah.
elephant, and we're focusing on getting together and just relaxing with each other outside of our normal meeting room, outside of our normal meeting location. And we're just going to be in someone's home and just relax, enjoy each other,
Yeah.
and have a big gathering, which scratches my itch, right? Because
Yeah.
it's insanely expensive to get up north for the holidays right now. So
Yeah.
that I realized that that's something I needed. And my husband does not. He's used to very small holidays, like 4 or 5 people max. Like that's what he's used to
Surprise.
all his life, right? So now he's married this person who needs these big gatherings at least once or twice a year.
Yeah, I love it. And we talked about this at Thanksgiving, high value activities. We're bringing in high value activities into our life. So it really just naturally makes the food pale in comparison to these fun, exciting things. And if you go on Instagram, there's a ton of game ideas for adults that are just so fun and lots of belly laughs and silly prizes for it. So I just think that's what makes the day so much more memorable. And the last thing that I want to say before we leave is you might also plan pretty tightly the day after. Sometimes that can be a triggering day. So just keeping the day after in mind too.
Stick,
For
stick,
me, I have a tight plan on the day after. Go
stick
ahead.
to stick to your plan, stick to your recovery plan.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
day after is like any other day.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to have a new goal that you might try something new the day after a painting or playing the piano or something fun that you have to look
Love
forward
it.
to. If that's helpful,
Love it.
then plan that in as part of your day
I
too. So
love that,
this has been
especially when holiday people have off, right? For holiday, oh,
right.
I love that. Great
And you
idea.
can feel a little bluesy the day after a holiday too. Sometimes people can feel that if they're, so happy to be with family and then the next day they're not. So having a new goal idea, something new and fun, exciting to look forward to, I think can be helpful.
Yeah, great idea.
Okay, guys, this has been great. Anything else you want to add, Jamie?
No, I think it's an important topic. And so we wanted to put that out there this week as we head into the holiday season for most people here in the world, right? So we look forward to hearing either in the chat or
Yeah,
in our community group. We look forward to hearing how you navigated your holidays
yeah,
successfully here at the
yeah.
end of December 2024. And as we head off into the new year and then for me, I have an extra holiday. So all of my holidays are stacked at the end of the year because my birthday sits smack in the middle of Christmas and New Year's. So that
Nice.
is another day of celebration for me. So it's important to be mindful, right, of those the cadence of the holidays and celebrating what you learned along the way afterwards.
Wonderful. I love this discussion, and it's a good reminder for me as well. So if you want to find out more about us, you can find us at realfoodrecovery4u.com. That's the number 4 and the letter U, and we will talk to you again. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Take care.